Hello and welcome to our program, Where God Weeps, a program where we talk about the situation of the suffering church around the world. Today we're going to be considering the country of Papua New Guinea, an island nation with over 700 different cultural and linguistic groups. We're going to be speaking with the Bishop of the Alotau-Sideia diocese, which is on the southern tip of the island. To know more about the lives of Catholics living there, it is my great privilege to welcome His Excellency, Bishop Rolando Santos. Welcome, Your Excellency, and thank you for being here today with us on our program.
It's a pleasure, Mark, to be here.
Your Excellency, you were ordained a priest in 1974 and you joined the Vincentian Fathers, a congregation for the missions. Did you always have a sense that you wanted to be a missionary?
Actually, when I entered the seminary at the age of 12, all I wanted was just to be a priest, to give my life to God and to the people.
At the age of 12?
At the age of 12.
When did you have a sense of your vocation, let's say?
Well, it was at the age of 10, there were already some who were doing vocation promotion in our school. And at the age of 10, that was when I said, yes, I wanted to volunteer. I mean, to give myself
to the church,
to God as a priest.
Was there a person or an event that particularly was defining in your decision-making process? Yes,
it was, my father used to go to Mass every day, and I would accompany him. And it was after Mass, while I was doing my Thanksgiving after communion, after Mass, when I decided that I will give my life to God as a priest. That was at the age of about 11.
Such a blessing for the Church. Your Excellency, coming back to the question of the missions, you decided you wanted to be a priest at a very young age, but why missionary life? Or why the Vincentians, which are a missionary community, if you will?
The Vincentians, as I said, I was only 12 then. It was my parish priest who told me to enter the Vincentians, even though he was diocesan, because he said the food in the Vincentian seminary is much better. And secondly, because he said almost all the bishops in our country, in the Philippines, were trained by the Vincentians.
You went to Papua New Guinea in 2001 for the first time. What would you say is the greatest shock that you encountered when you arrived?
It was more actually the violence, in Port Moresby. We could not really get out of the place, like walk around at night after about 7 o'clock or so. But my greatest shock was, this was a year after I arrived, when one of the Franciscan priests, with whom I was just playing tennis with, a group of rascals, they call them rascals or criminals, they entered his house and shot him while he was sleeping.
I'm sorry.
So that was a real shock for me.
It was only criminal activity, or was there something, is there an attack against the church, or why would there be violence enacted against a priest?
Well, we are not really sure as to the motivation. Some are saying it might have something to do with something political, because that Franciscan priest is, of course, a member of the congregation where the former Archbishop of Port Moresby was also Franciscan, but he was very vocal in political matters.
You have been moved from Port Moresby. Now you are the Bishop of the Alotau-Sideia diocese, which is pretty well at the end of the world, if I understand correctly. You're right at the very tip, the southern tip of Papua New Guinea. Can you explain a little bit about the environment in which you find yourself now?
The Diocese of Alotau-Sideia is located in Milne Bay Province, and it is It is a very big diocese in terms of the territorial area. It's almost like a little bit smaller than the whole of Italy.
Wow.
But it's very big. But much of it is water. There are 160 islands in my diocese. We have 17 parishes and 148 communities, but all located almost all in the different islands. And for me to travel to the farthest parish, I have to take a plane for about 40 minutes.
Wow.
And then take a boat for 8 hours to one island and another boat for another 8 hours to that particular parish.
My goodness.
So my diocese is mostly water, but very beautiful.
How are the people? What is the ethnic? Because, of course, in Papua New Guinea, there are some extraordinary number, I think something like 700 different ethnic groups and languages. How are the people? What is the ethnic group in which you find yourself? And how are the people, and how did they receive you, the new bishop to this diocese?
In my diocese, the people were very happy when they found out that they will have a new bishop, because they were without a bishop for, I think, almost a year. So they've been really longing to have a bishop. And the people are very simple, especially in their faith. And
is it primary evangelization still, or is it more a question of catechization?
It would be more like catechization.
I don't even know if that's a word, but
yes, I just repeated it. But definitely it is deepening the faith of the people. Actually, the people of Alotau-Sideia, they're among the most peaceful in the whole country of Papua New Guinea. And very simple, as I said. And,
they're fisher people, is that right?
Yes, most of them are. Yes, their livelihood is fishing and farming.
I don't know. We take a step back. When you heard you were going to Papua New Guinea, I mean, some of the early stories of the missionaries going there didn't end so well. Did you have any trepidation about your appointment, if you will, to Papua New Guinea?
Actually, no. I volunteered to go to Papua New Guinea because our Superior General was asking for volunteers especially to teach in the seminary in Port Moresby. I just wanted to go because I have been talking a lot to religious who were in the missions, encouraging them in their missionary work, because I was a director of the Daughters of Charity, and they were in different mission countries. So
I guess what I'm trying to get to is that the first missionaries were actually eaten, or some of the first missionaries.
Yes.
Did you know of this, and then what was your feeling what was your expectation, if you will, when you first were sent out more into the countryside?
Yes, going to Alotau-Sideia. Actually, there is no more cannibalism actually today.
For those who are with us today in our program, just to give them a bit of the context, the first missionaries encountered cannibals.
That's right. Blessed Giovanni Mazzucconi was among the first missionaries to set foot in Papua New Guinea. Actually, it is in our diocese where he set foot, that is in the island of Woodlark. And as soon as his boats arrived, some of the natives boarded the ship, and Mazzucconi thought that they were coming as as friendly people, but then they just attacked him, and because they were cannibals, they did what they
do best.
do best. But of course, how do I feel about that? Well, I guess great admiration for that missionary, because he was not afraid to give his life, for the mission. And me too, I know it's not going to be that easy to be in Alotau-Sideia, far from your own family, your country, and everything else. But it is more, of course, just like any missionary, I guess. They go there for the love of God, for the faith.
The question of geography, of course, has been one that has been a hindrance for evangelization in Papua New Guinea. How often would you say that the parishes in these outlying areas of your diocese would see a priest?
Well, we have 148 small communities attached to 17 parishes, and we only have about 22 priests. So these priests would probably, on a Sunday, would see about 2 communities, or at most 3. And some parishes have something like 30 communities.
Wow.
So it will take quite a while before they reach, the last one.
It could be a matter of years before a parish, particularly a remote parish, would see a priest.
We have one parish, which is Woodlark. That was where Blessed Matsukoni was martyred. Right now, we don't have a priest in that particular island. So, but I hope I could send a priest there at least every 3 or at most 6 months.
Yes. What do the people do in the meanwhile? How do they spiritually survive?
Well, they have this small Christian community, small communities, and we have church workers, catechists, who take care of the community. So they're the ones who lead the celebration of the Word of God. And if we are able to give them the sacred hosts, if they have enough stock of that, then they give this to the people. Yeah.
About 1 in every 3rd Papua New Guinean is Catholic, but it still means that 2/3 are either traditional religions or other denominations. If I can ask you a little bit about traditional religions in Papua New Guinea, what are we talking about when we're talking about traditional faith or traditional customs, tribal customs, if you will?
Well, actually, there are only about 3% of the population would still be following the traditional religions, because the whole country is already, they declare themselves a Christian country. But there are definitely still certain customs, like belief in superstitions, in witchcraft, which are still there and are still quite strong, these beliefs in witchcraft.
How does it manifest itself in the context of Papua New Guinea?
Well, these witch, they call them sanguma. They are actually they use their powers. They can use their powers in order to harm people, to kill people. And the ones who have these powers are usually the ones who live in the coastal region. So the people from the highlands would be really scared of them.
How does the church work in relation to these these groups that are still following traditional religions? How do you try and meet them and, let's say, keep what is good in the culture, but at the same time perhaps try and weed out what is not, or as you say, what is harmful for the population?
What we try to do is to try to educate the people. Actually, the Catholic Church is one of the churches that has the most number of schools in Papua New Guinea. And in my diocese, we have 40 primary schools and about 80 elementary schools and 2 secondary schools. So we try to change or to try to improve, the values of the people, especially through education.
We've talked maybe a little bit about what is harmful in, with the sanguma, but what would be positive in the tribal traditions that, for example, you might say this would like to, because often the church, the missionaries, the first missionaries, were accused of stripping the local culture and imposing Christianity, for example. But today, the Catholic Church is often the sole guarantor of that which is still good in a culture, that which is worth keeping and valuable in a culture, especially when confronted with materialism, secularization, and globalization. What would you say is that which is good in the local culture which you are trying to protect and trying to keep?
Well, what is good is these people are community-minded people, and they still value very much the family, the community. So they don't feel like they are alone, they feel they see themselves as part of a community, unlike probably in the Western society. And they still manage to keep many of their good traditional values, like that of sharing and helping one another. And like suppose for church, because they're very communitarian people, they love the church. They easily cooperate with church activities.
Your Excellency, what about secularization? I mean, there's a lot of influences coming in, I suppose, perhaps through Australia, New Zealand, but maybe the United States as well, through the media. What impact does this new cultural values that are being imported, what impact does this have on the youth?
In our diocese, actually, we don't have yet that much of probably influence from the outside, because there's not much electrification, there's no power.
So the
but
technology...
except in like in Alotau, where some people have television sets and they can watch. They have also they have the use of the computer also, but these are only very few people. But definitely, but in the rest of Papua New Guinea, where they have more access to these things, it's definitely changing some of their values. They're becoming more materialistic. And losing many of their good family and community values.
What other challenges, I mean, we talked about a little bit materialism, perhaps sexual attitudes which are changing and challenges. What other challenges are facing young people in your area?
Well, one of the big problems that we have in my area is that of education. So the young people, sometimes they are not selected. Many are not selected to go to the higher grades, like supposed to go to high school or the secondary school, because of their grades are not good enough.
I see.
So because of that, many of these young people can be left, without without that much opportunities for them to improve their lives. And sometimes they can be tempted, to waste their time in doing things like taking drugs. And
is drugs a problem in your area?
Marijuana, yes, it is a problem. We have them, but how rampant, I'm not really sure, but we have them.
What about youth employment? Is there work for the young people?
Well, that's the problem, because as I said, if they are not able to study, to go to college, then they will just be hanging around and they can be tempted to do rascal activities. So what we are trying to do in the diocese is trying, like for the girls, we try to train them, to provide them with livelihood, like teaching them how to cook, how to sew.
Vocational training.
We're trying to put up now a vocational school near Alotau to train boys, like to fix cars or to do welding and things like that. But it's in the works.
Yes.
It's not yet there. That is our...
It's a big challenge.
Yes.
Are the parents encouraging? I mean, for example, the boys, perhaps they send them to school. Do they keep the girls home, or do they also encourage the girls to go to school and get an education? What is it for the young women?
Yeah, more and more of the young women are able to go to school, and it is good that the government right now, the present government, provides free tuition up to high school.
Is in traditional culture, for example, the young girl, at what age would she be given in marriage? Would it be young? And what is the situation now? And how, if at all, is the Church trying to encourage perhaps a different direction in this question?
Not too young, probably about 18, 19, 20, who are already with children.
Ah, yes.
And but many of them...
But married already, or without...
There are many who are not married. They just have children, and sometimes the boys, they just after doing it with a girl, and they just run. They are not committed.
Is it a lack of understanding of fatherhood? Is it a lack of understanding of what commitment means? I mean, where does the breakdown start, where the young men just simply pack off once they've had a relationship with a young woman?
It's probably lack of education, or lack of self-discipline also, and also lack of faith, I believe. There's still a need for us to evangelize, really, to evangelize in a strong way, the families. And but also sometimes some of these things are connected also with poverty. If they have no work and they're not able to go to school, this is what they do. So that is actually one of the pains that I have also as a bishop, in our diocese, is how to improve family life and to help also to avoid having so many pregnant or single mothers, in the diocese.
Yes.
But of course, their family, their extended family help them.
Yes. So there is a culture of life. It's not a...
That's right.
There is a sense of, if a child comes, it is absorbed in the family, it is looked after and
That is
taken
right.
care
Yes,
of.
that is
That's already a beautiful
good thing.
Already a good thing.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yes.
Poverty you mentioned. What do we understand by poverty? I mean, the livelihood, fishing and agriculture is there. So poverty we understand by hand-to-mouth existence, or how would you describe poverty for us in your diocese?
The diocese is very rich in natural resources, and if they were only more diligent, nobody will go hungry, because there's plenty of fish. The ocean is there, and the sea is steaming with marine life.
Yes.
They can also do gardening. They can plant. Though of course, in some islands, like suppose in Kiriwina, the population is increasing quite fast, and of course that will the resources are would not be enough unless. But the people in that island, or the young people, they are among the best in school. I mean, the education-wise. I mean, in terms of achievement,
Yes.
academic achievement,
They're
probably it's because they know that their future lies in education. They cannot just stay there and depend on agriculture, on the land, which is not enough to support all of them.
A diminishing resource.
Right.
Your Excellency, we've talked about a broad swath of topics, if you will, from education to healthcare to... What would you say is the greatest need in your diocese?
For me, the greatest need is really evangelization for me, because I feel that the lack of faith is at the root of much of the sufferings and moral evil that we find in the diocese. That includes almost everything, whether that is the breakdown of family life, corruption in government, the abuse of women, violence,
All areas.
all those other things. I believe that if only the people would be more evangelized, not only to know Christ, but really to commit themselves to Him and to follow Him and to allow the Lord to convert them and to change their hearts, that would probably be a big help to help them to live a much more abundant life. But also another need that we have in the diocese to do that, we need human resources. We have our priests are getting older and they're getting sick, and we need more missionaries also.
You would make a call for missionaries to come and help you.
That's right. Call for more vocations. We have some young priests and vocations, but also they need to be better. They have to be well formed, and and also we need to form well the lay people. Actually, many lay people collaborate in our work. But one thing they need is formation and, of course, encouragement from us. They are wonderful people. I'm really impressed and thankful to God for the many lay people who help us, because without them, the church cannot go on with the mission.
Your Excellency, thank you. You have a big challenge ahead of you. But thank you, and thank you for being with us today in our program.
Thank you, Mark.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having been with us today on our program, Where God Weeps. And if you'd like to know more about the work of His Excellency Bishop Rolando Santos in this Diocese of Alotau-Sideia, and perhaps how you might be able to help through your prayer or your concrete action, I would encourage you to look at the contact information at the end of this program, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.